Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 20, the big 2-0 of This Week in Cloud Computing.
We can drink next week.
Oh, you just stole my shtick.
Sorry.
That was my bit.
Was that on here?
That was my bit.
But I said it 2 weeks ago.
I know. But yes, next week we can officially drink vino on the show.
We'll have to have some vino on the show.
There will be a bottle of wine in the middle of the table. I prefer Merlot, thank you.
Very good. Good to know. Good to know.
Everyone, this is Mark Jeffrey, co-host in studio. And we also have one Mr. Dave Linthicum joining us remotely on Skype, co-host number 2.
Hey guys, how's it going? I prefer Pinot Noir next week, by the way.
Okay. You'd better make sure that you have a bottle sitting there with you, unless you're in studio with us, of course.
I always have a bottle sitting next to me.
Excellent. Let's make sure we do that. Got a lot going on at this weekend. Today, we actually put out a very heavy momentum announcement.
We did. Big release.
So within 6 weeks of our official launch, we are happy to announce we've doubled our shows. Doubled, folks. So, and we've kept our promise of moving beyond technology shows. As you've heard here before, we have an entertainment block now.
Yep.
So, you know, our shows range anywhere from This Week in Poker to This Week in Movies, This Week in Music, you name it, we've got entertainment shows galore. So make sure you check out that announcement. We've got that in the chat room. And yeah, we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah, they're all really great shows, so I'm very proud of
We've got some great distribution. We had a lot of stuff going on. So last week we were asked by someone on Twitter, I'm sorry I don't have your name in front of me, but to define cloud washing. So I think we'll use pictures for this. So let's cut to the studio laptop here. It says, what's that?
Being the computer. Yep.
And then we go down here. This is Geek and Poke, by the way. I love Geek and Poke. Our new cloud. Some consultants have been here and sold it to us. looks like the SOA they sold us 3 years ago.
There you go.
That defines it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
But what do you think, Dave? Do you think that answers it?
Well, cloud computing is much more than service-oriented architecture, having been in both spaces. So it is a little bit of a play on things. But ultimately, cloud computing is a combination of a lot of things that have been emerging over time. So it is a repackaging of existing compute infrastructure. But I would argue that there's enough innovative new stuff in there to really kind of make it a new and exciting space. Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Absolutely.
I have to do a little more bragging here just because, well, we look so cool. We've got some, we look really cool. I mean, not just us, but, the network. We've got a lot of great people. And, well, we have this wonderfully branded iTunes page.
Oh, I'm going to show that
And we've got to show this off a little bit here, folks. So when we talk about our momentum, we've got this great partnership. We've got wonderful stuff going on with iTunes. We've got a YouTube channel now that's completely This Weekend.
Yeah, if you want to go to this iTunes channel that Amanda's showing on the screen right there, you just go to itunes.com/thisweekend, all one word, and you have to have iTunes loaded on your system, of course, but it'll bring you right to this section, and all of our shows are there.
I just think that looks really cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. We've done a lot of work graphically and organizationally now, so I'm feeling pretty happy with this now.
And in terms of participation, you can subscribe to these different channels, and you can rate our shows, give us feedback on them. That's super, super helpful for us, so make sure you check them out.
Yeah, we read all this stuff, so we're paying attention.
So yes, and let's see, other important things about it. Oh, we have sponsors.
We do, very important.
We love our sponsors,
very
as you've probably seen by the way that we show them off here on the show. We have Verticore, that's at Verticore, at Storm On Demand, and of course, check out Mark's shirt, to show this
Got my Storm shirt on today, of course.
Yes.
Yes, very happy about that.
And NetDNA, so it's at NetDNA CDN on Twitter. So make sure, please thank our sponsors. They're what make this show possible, and actually the whole network possible.
Absolutely.
We have 11 great sponsors now.
And we're going to add a couple more in the next week.
And a few more on their way. Yep. So thank you. And without further ado, we have some great guests. We have Leslie Fine, who's a PhD and the chief scientist of Crowdcast, joining us on the phone today. And then later on in the show for the app of the week, we have Taylor Mingos, the CEO of Shoeboxed, joining us. So I want to jump right into some of this. I believe we should probably start with some news. Hot off the presses, story number 1. There's a major report from I can never say this name, Fujitsu. Say that 10 times fast,
Fujitsu.
Amanda. Fujitsu. Yeah. It's Fujitsu. That says economic stress, demographic changes, globalization, increased mobile services are all going to influence how cloud computing develops over the next 10 to 20 years. Now, what I found interesting with this, and I can credit Dave, I think, for shooting this one over to us, thank you. It says the recession will generate lasting social benefits. People pull together in adversity with more social contact, replacing retail consumption. While this will be difficult for retailers, we will get a stronger, better networked society that forces changes in attitudes toward IT. So I would like to get some opinion from our guest first, Leslie Fine, here on the phone. Do you agree with this silver lining approach, Leslie?
Well, I think it's hard to say that people will stop shopping. But I think that there's definitely a trend that we're already seeing where people are relying more heavily on their social networks for their retail choices. So there are more and more crowdsourced retail items with companies like Quirky.com or crowdsourced creative items like Etsy. And I think they're very well positioned to be at sort of this intersection of social and personal with retail.
By the way, has everyone checked out her awesome headshot?
I'm
sorry,
actually.
I had to do it. I'm sorry,
around.
Leslie, I had to do it. Because I think it's like that no-nonsense businesswoman.
That's a good headshot.
I love it.
I like it. Very good.
Dave, what's your take on this one since you threw this story at us?
Yeah, I think it's a fundamental change in how we think about computing. I mean, just 2 years ago, most people didn't do things in the cloud, and now everybody has a Gmail account. They use Google Calendar for calendar sharing. They use all kinds of infrastructure, either from their PC or more often than not from their iPads and from their mobile devices, and they're pushing things into the cloud. So it's an acceptable way of doing computing right now, and a lot of people are leveraging that acceptability in the enterprise, and they're starting to take an uptake and moving into the cloud computing space. Quite frankly, it's been driven from the consumer to IT, which is rather unusual, and I think it's very interesting.
I like that piece too. We often forget about the consumer in some of this stuff. It's, ooh, look at the IT, isn't it amazing, isn't it great? But it's the consumer that ultimately I think has to drive that. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, no, I agree. Actually, I had a thought on this when I read the story. When I was younger, I read...
I wish we had a little light bulb to go off over your head. Let's make that happen next time,
we'll do that for the next show. But there was a series of science fiction books. So my dad was reading science fiction in the 50s, and when I was growing up, I found these books and read a lot of them. There was a story by a guy named Louis Paget, or a series of short stories by a guy named Galloway. And he was basically a drunk genius. That was sort of the way the stories went. But anyway, the Galloway books, he would always pay for computing power. So he was always, going and paying. He would always to solve a mystery.
He developed cloud computing.
He would have to go and actually, pay credits to get his computations done. And I used to think to myself, oh, silly 50s people. Here in the 70s, we've already got, personal computers, and that's obviously the way things are going.
Wow.
And in the 80s, it was very clear as well. And now we're back to that again, which is very strange and kind of interesting in a way. We've kind of come full circle like that.
Does this mean that stuff that happens in Max Quick is actually really going to happen?
We'll have to wait and see.
And if you didn't get that plug, make sure you check out the Max Quick series because our own Mark Jeffrey over here is an author.
Yeah, we'll get to that another time.
Well, let's move on then to story number 2. Yeah. The U.S. Census Bureau. I love talking about the government and the cloud on the show. And the Census Bureau is actually a very good use case of the benefits of cloud computing specifically within the government vertical, because they took advantage of both software as a service, so SaaS, and infrastructure as a service, IaaS, providers during the peak times for the 2010 census. I believe they had about 8 different providers that they were using for various things, so they spent about $11.8 billion. So again, showing that money is spent on this stuff. It's not that it's all free or whatnot, but they used Akamai's CDN to build out rather than building out their own network. They used RightNow for self-service customer support for things like FAQs. They used GovDelivery, which is outsourced email, and actually they took advantage of their blogging tool to set up a blog within a few hours. And Salesforce for contacts, Google Maps for API, the Google Maps API. So they took advantage of all these great things. I didn't see specifically how much money they saved with that, but they did save a heck of a lot of time rather than building out their own infrastructure and whatnot, and definitely dealing with the peak times. So will this kind of validation help push government adoption of the cloud, especially when we're looking now at Obama cutting back on some of the IT initiatives federally and then still having security issues? Dave, I want your thoughts on this first.
Yeah, I think the cutback in IT spending is going to drive a lot of these agencies to the cloud. And the Census Bureau was right to start adopting this technology to move into the processing that they needed to do to process the information that they gathered from the census. So quite frankly, they became very innovative with less money that they had and leveraged the cloud to make that happen. Also in the story, and I think very important, is the fact of the matter they're actually taking their cloud inside and they're moving a lot of their internal infrastructure into the private cloud. And that's going to save a lot of money. I suspect they saved millions from this, and I suspect that we're going to save millions going forward. And moreover, the real value of this is their ability to get into this space and build these systems in a record amount of time versus taking years and years and years. We just can't do that anymore.
I agree. Mark, you have some thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I think not only is he right that they saved millions, I'm sure that they did.
Right.
But not only that, but now once the census is done, they no longer have that equipment sitting there idle, collecting dust. It's gone. The second you stop using it. It's a perfect example. It's a perfect case study for what cloud computing is very good at. Very massive installations that are used temporarily and then torn down, almost like a circus leaving town, that sort of thing.
Right.
So it's a perfect case study, I think, for this. So.
And then going back to the consumer point, the thing I like about it is that things like the Google Maps API and also like the FAQs, the self-service sort of pieces, it's better for the consumer. Like they were able to get more information. They had a lot of, instead of having to call a phone number or whatnot, it actually was useful.
People are already used to these systems.
They have more transparency and better communication really with the public.
Yeah.
So Leslie, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I agree. I mean, I think the census had a perfect sort of level of urgency, peak load, and scale that really could only be serviced really well by cloud computing.
Yeah.
I definitely see, we see at Crowdcast a lot of appetite and curiosity from the government about applications. I'm still a little bit pessimistic about the inertia to get through the traditional government requisition process, which is just a very hard mountain to climb.
Yeah, I think one way that they're dealing with that is a few different government offices are working together. They're collaborating on using the cloud.
Yeah.
I can't remember specifically which one is in this story. Make sure you all check it out. We'll put that link in the chat room.
One of the things about the story that was interesting was, I mean, obviously security was a huge issue.
Absolutely.
You do not want people's personal information escaping the Census Bureau, right?
Yeah, like that I live in West Hollywood or have a cat.
So that was obviously a huge concern for them. That was in the article.
Yeah.
And it apparently worked. They apparently didn't have any major security holes that we've heard about anyway. So I believe that was probably successful.
Yeah, so in that case, validation, credibility, whatnot, making people a little more comfortable in the government.
Yeah.
Next article, Dave, this one is from you, actually penned by our Dave Linthicum. EMC has shut down its Atmos cloud storage service to avoid competing with its software customers. So this one's a great example of a provider that's cannibalizing its own market. Dave, what are your additional thoughts on this one?
I think a lot of the big software guys are in the same boat, and EMC is basically the first one to realize that they're cannibalizing their own market. So EMC is a software company, at the end of the day, and selling through their partners. They realized that they were conflicting with their partners and had to remove their cloud service to avoid the conflict, just for the fundamental business aspects of it. And I think the larger players, such as IBM and Oracle and Microsoft, are going to have very similar issues. As cloud starts to take off, they're going to realize that selling cloud services takes away from the traditional business. And my take on that is, get over it. It's going to happen. So you might as well figure out a way to move through the market. But initially, we're going to see some of this pushback, and a lot of these cloud services go away as their channels become conflicted, and their enterprise sales staff realize that they can't make a living anymore off of selling enterprise software and iron.
I would love to get a channel marketing expert on here to talk.
Do you think EMC was catching flack from their providers? Do you think they were pressured into it, or do you think they voluntarily just said, "Oh, we have to go and do this"? Do you have any information on that, or?
I think they're catching a lot of flack. I don't. I have anecdotal information. They wouldn't have done this if they didn't ask them to do it. They didn't pull this off. I'm sure they had a gang of people show up at their door, and they were basically looking to see and to tell EMC that they had to get out of that business because they're hurting them. And so EMC basically caved.
Yeah.
Speaking of pressures, interesting Amazon story.
Yeah.
I've got to jump into this one.
This is a great one.
Amazon's finally drinking its own Kool-Aid, so to speak, and attempting an IT switch to Amazon Web Services. So Jen Bowden, who's the director of IT services at Amazon, is heading up the effort. And to be very clear, she wasn't responsible for the downtime that happened recently.
Yeah, we should actually cover that for people who didn't see the last show or know about this story.
Exactly.
Last week, Amazon, there's two Amazons. There's the cloud provider Amazon, then there's the books and merchandising Amazon. The books and merchandising Amazon, Amazon.com, went down for 8 hours.
Yes.
Right before the last.
A lot of money.
And so we did not know whether that the Amazon.com site was on the Amazon Cloud Services platform or whether it was separately housed or whatever. We weren't sure. Go ahead. And with this story, we've now discovered that they, in fact, had nothing to do with the cloud services. And as of this week, they're now moving over to it.
They're starting to. So yes. Jen Bowden is the director of IT services at Amazon, and so she handles all of their internal IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so she says that she looked at vendors and chose Amazon Web Services and had to sign up in the same way anybody else would. I don't know if I really believe that.
Are we getting this
part.
right? Is it internal IT or is it Amazon.com, or are they separate things?
Internal IT.
So it's not Amazon.com. So it's not the out-facing. Do we know that from the article?
I'll have to double check that, actually.
Okay. I'm not sure either.
But she said she handled the internal IT at Amazon. Okay. And so they're finally, like, what I want to know is this, again, is it related to business demand, or is it actually pressure to move their internal IT to the cloud? What do you think, Mark?
I'm sure there was pressure, and I'm sure they're saying that there wasn't. So, because I mean, why you look stupid when when it was discovered that Microsoft was actually using Linux servers to power Hotmail back in the day instead of their own internal IaaS servers. They caught a lot of flack for it, understandably, and they could not make the move over, which defeated their entire business case for the rest of their products. So
I'm very curious to see how this unfolds and if they share it with the rest of us. But Dave, what do you think? I mean, they're an enterprise like any other, and they have multiple systems, and they're going to have to worry about some of that stuff moves easily to the cloud, but not all of it does. So how do you think they're going to address it?
I think they're going to address it in a stepwise manner, and I think they're going to be very conservative about it. So they have, if you look at their existing IT portfolio, it's very traditional systems, and some of those are going to translate well into AWS, and some of those are not. So I think right now they're probably trying to pick and choose the core applications and the core infrastructure systems to move into that environment. I think it's going to be a better, more robust environment for them, and I was actually very surprised that they had very little to do with it currently. But I'd say a good portion of their systems are going to be there in a few years, and I think Mark's absolutely right. It's going to be pressure internally. Go make it happen. And I think that's perfectly fine. And I think Amazon is going to be successful in eating their own dog food, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, but Jen was very careful not to use that term. She talked about champagne. I don't know what the champagne
Drinking her own
is.
champagne.
There you go.
Well, so she doesn't have to say dog food. That's why.
I know.
So,
she likes champagne better.
Yeah.
I like champagne better.
Yeah, I can
then again, I've never tried dog food, but anyway.
Metaphor upgraded the metaphor.
Well, the last one, Zoho Calendar has moved out of beta. So pretty straightforward story. It's a unified calendaring application. It's unifying all their different applications under their cloud productivity suite. They've got about 2 million users. You can privately share the calendars with other users, import events, subscribe to another calendar, embed it. Sounds a lot like Google Calendar to me. Yeah. So the obvious questions here, will it succeed given that there are things like Google Calendar and iCal out there? Why bother, Dave?
I wouldn't bother, and it's I think that they're going to find that as they get into the market. Now, not taking away anything from their existing products, because they have a lot of very great cloud product, office automation or productivity products in the cloud. So they're coming out with a calendar. I think they're not going to get a lot of penetration beyond their existing customer base. In fact, perhaps that's all they expect, the ability to kind of maintain their existing customers who are using Zoho, the word processing, spreadsheets, office automation stuff they're able to provide. But quite frankly, Google Calendars is awesome, and it's unstoppable, and it's going to be very difficult for them to take away that share, especially the fact it's free.
Yeah. Leslie, what do you think about this one?
Well, I think that the calendar is going to be kind of a check-the-box item for them, for people who want a one-stop shop for all their productivity software, just one platform and away you go. And, Zoho does kind of try to differentiate by being more aimed squarely at business with CRM and whatnot. So for people who want one place to go, that's lovely. That said, the calendar's pretty hard to beat from Google.
Yeah, but now that Google is starting to move more in a business direction, are we looking at the possibility of an acquisition here? What do you think, Mark?
Well, I had a thought about the entire thing.
Yeah.
Let me tell you just a real quick little story here. So, once upon a time, there was a little company called Friendster that had 3 million users, and obviously it was stupid to start a social network because they had the early mover advantage, and you never would catch them. And MySpace didn't listen to that conventional wisdom and came out of the gate and built a giant network. And obviously then it was stupid to go up against MySpace, because they had the momentum and they had, millions of users, or tens of millions of users. And so Facebook didn't listen to that conventional wisdom, and now they're top of the heap. I don't think anyone owns calendaring totally. And,
right.
I mean, yes, Google's got the best product. I would agree with that. But well, I'm not even sure if it's a product in the same way social networking is. It probably isn't. It's probably a feature, not a company.
Yeah.
But I always am hesitant to say, oh, it can't be done, and someone else owns it, when I've already seen so many examples of things that have gotten smashed out of the way by a product that came along out of nowhere and had a few other bells and whistles,
like marketing,
or the incumbent stumbled in some way terribly. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's always possible.
Well, more than anything, I'm just curious to see what happens with Zoho overall as Google moves more into a business direction.
Yep.
So that is that. I believe it's starting to get a little bit chilly in
I believe
here.
it is, Shield Maiden. I believe it is.
Was that a wind?
That is why
I think it was a breeze.
we are talking about Storm on Demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough.
You better not cut my head off.
To replace dedicated servers, make your little guys go. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. It was a proprietary platform that was designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, pay-as-you-go utility-style billing, and lightsabers, or cloud sabers as we like to call them, or storm sabers. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and much, much, much more. Storm on Demand can be found at stormondemand.com, and thank them at @StormOnDemand on Twitter. Storm on Demand, when you need a storm.
I think he's really getting into that a lot lately. Have you noticed that, Dave? Dave, what do you think? I think he really likes Storm.
Our Storm commercial is going to get an upgrade pretty soon. We're working on something. I'm hoping to have it together soon.
Don't tell
Mark does
them.
that extremely well, and I can't imagine why our sponsors would ever leave. And you guys very good advocates for him.
You're going to have to help out. You're going to have to put a little hat on.
You're going to get a special package in the mail for the Storm on Demand ad.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Outstanding.
He says with hesitation. Well, anyway, I would love to jump in now with a discussion with Leslie Fine. So Leslie has her PhD, and she's the chief scientist with Crowdcast. Now, Crowdcast is a business intelligence tool that taps the collective knowledge of employees, in essence, being able to predict the future, so to speak. Is that right, Leslie?
That I couldn't have said it better myself. Yep.
So what exactly does a chief scientist do anyway?
My boss would like to know the same thing. So to some extent, I'm the chief geek. Early in our company's life, I was spending a lot of time really doing down in the trenches mechanism design and creating the core IP that the Crowdcast platform runs on. And now I spend more and more time sort of thinking about where the space is going generally and talking to nice people like you.
Aw. Well, and The Economist, and Scientific American, and Financial Times, The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and All Things D. Did I get that right?
Wow.
Yeah.
So no, Leslie knows her stuff. So, I like this notion of, you actually mentioned to All Things D that you joined Crowdcast so you could tell the future. So can you maybe, in layman's terms, give us an explanation of specifically how this works?
Sure. So we believe pretty strongly that, especially inside companies, which is usually where we work, that the most critical information about what's going to happen in your projects, when things are really going to launch and how well the market's really going to accept them and what your company is really going to do, are all sort of lying dormant inside your people, and that the real business intelligence is social intelligence. And that if we can build the right tools and incentives and safety nets for people to be able to share that in sort of a quantitative way, then we can help predict the future.
I kind of like the HR aspect of this, because you often have people that will gather together in their little groups in a conference room somewhere off in a corner, and they'll kind of say what they think is going to happen, which may go against what their boss is saying or upper management is saying, and they might be afraid of sharing that. So is this addressing those sorts of scenarios?
There's definitely a protect the whistleblower aspect to this, and sort of core to what we do is saying, look, it may actually turn out that the guy highest on the totem pole has the information, but often it's not. And we want to create a meritocracy of ideas and information, and also with sort of a timeliness and a cadence that's appropriate for today's businesses.
Okay. And I saw that there's some sort of gameplay element that exists with this too, I would think, to incentivize people and get them to place bets on forecasts. Can you go into that a little bit? Because you do also have a background in game theory, right?
Yeah, I do. The basic idea is that we do exactly that. You can come into the system and, like any good game, you sort of have a starting amount of cash or points, and you can place bets on what you think is really going to happen. I'll bet you $1,000 that product's going to be 6 weeks late, but I'll bet you $500 that when it is, we beat our market share expectations. And while this is all virtual currency, we tie it back to incentives, to reports to management, to sort of status, and the kinds of things that the gaming mechanics have shown us can work so very well. And so that really gets people to sort of, once you sit down and start trying to put your money where your mouth is on these future outcomes, it makes you think about the problem in a whole different way, and we find really amazingly accurate results.
Now, when you talk about the accurate results, what are the best things, or what has the best results in terms of the different forecasts? Is it product schedules? Is it, just, I don't know, like looking at disaster recovery, whatever it may be? What are the biggest things?
I'd say that they tend to fall in bringing new projects or big strategic initiatives to market. So in other words, rare events and disasters are kind of hard for people or computers to predict, although we can help there. Right. And things that are already in the market and the law of large numbers is on your side. And, we sold 1 million printers last month. We're going to sell 1.2 next month. Gotcha. Data is good at that stuff. Where data is not good is new things, so you're bringing a brand new product to market, so very hit-driven, places where human error or sort of behavior gets in the way, like the ship dates. So, how good a product's going to be and when it's going to hit market are some of our classic questions, as well as the market conditions in which that occurs. Yeah.
And what about the outliers or the jokesters that don't take it seriously? How do you address them?
Well, because there's this interactive game, if I place a bet that sort of moves the market in a really silly way, you're opening up a profit opportunity for someone else.
Okay.
So unlike a survey or something that's a little more static than that, the power of the market is really on your side, much like in sports betting. If somebody places a crazy bet and moves the odds, someone else is going to go, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, she gets the ego involved. That's what's cool about this.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
That was like if I win, I'm like, hey, man, I'm predicting the future. I kick ass.
Yeah.
If I lose, then I look stupid.
Yeah. You better tell Jason about this one.
He'd love it. Oh, he would love this one.
You use a term that I really like, Leslie, it's that you coined, the cloud and the crowd. So, how companies like Crowdcast are creating a new category of social business intelligence. And this kind of goes back to that report from the company I can't pronounce.
Fujitsu.
There you go.
Fujitsu.
See, everybody else can say it but me. So do you want to expand on that about the cloud and the crowd?
Sure. So, it is really how we can use the cloud to connect senior management with employees across an organization. As we've talked about here, when a company does something new, there's information all over that's not in their data.
Right.
And those data systems are awesome, but they also drive everything, and they tend to be pretty stale and backward-looking.
Yeah.
And databases really just aren't enough. And BI in particular is an area that hasn't caught up to the increasingly collaborative human way in which people work. And we really feel it's ripely poised for disruption. That in this world, people really want to be helped. They want to be heard. There's tons of social software, but those technologies don't drive the hardcore problem of providing business intelligence. And so we see a huge opportunity there.
Gotcha. Dave, you look like you may have something to say. What do you want to ask Leslie?
Leslie, can you tell us what happened to the Microsoft Ken? Well, this is.
I don't think anyone can.
This is a
Could
great
they have
play.
benefited from Crowdcast?
This is a great
sure.
play. I think that
everybody talks about the fact that anytime I hear we all knew it, I'm like, haha, market opportunity. The water cooler wisdom or the things that people are talking about at the bar after work really You want that in your data. I guess I get a little upset when I hear about business intelligence that doesn't include social intelligence because it's so obvious.
And that really kind of frames the problem ultimately is that we have all this information that's out there. We're unable to decipher it and determine patterns from it. And so the work you're doing is spot on. I mean, as I'm running around, working with people in markets as they're trying to enter new markets, the information is there. They know it's there. They see tidbits of it, but they can't mine that information for its value. So if you guys are working on that problem, kudos to you because you're going to make $1 billion.
That's the plan. Thanks.
You've heard it first here from Dave Linthicum on This Week in Cloud Computing.
So, quick question. So I read once an article in one of these science magazines about someone did a mathematical analysis on the fall of the Soviet Union, and their conclusion was that because everything was so centralized, the center could not learn fast enough from the information flowing in from the periphery in order for them to plan effectively, which sounds somewhat like the problem you're trying to solve. My question is, it still seems like even with your product, you still have the problem of scale at a certain point. Which information at the periphery is the most important, or indeed, can the center somehow find a way to sift it so it can learn fast enough? Do you think about that particular problem? Is that part of what you do, and if so, how do you solve that?
I do think about it. It's not something we do today, but it's that's what we put in the category of good problems to have.
Yep.
I think you're spot on with the fact that what we're about is moving from a command and control kind of organization to a much more disseminated, distributed sort of starfish model. There is an issue of scale if you're running, say, a single question across a 1 million-person organization. But often these things are sort of more team distributed and are kind of getting rolled up as they go. And so the individual questions might not be 1 million people strong. And we also encourage people in various ways to not only tell us what they think, but the whys, and are able on the back end to do some analytics that say, gee, not only do people think that there's a 53% probability you're going to hit your target, but the guys in ops are way more pessimistic about this than the guys in marketing. And the guys in ops who are pessimistic are consistently talking about a packaging problem. And so that you can triage this information and try to get not only to the bad news machine thing of your product's screwed, but what you really could do to remediate that before it's too late.
Okay.
That's interesting. Leslie, one question I have is, what are your thoughts on where Salesforce.com is going in terms of real-time collaboration and this social element?
You mean in terms of chatter?
Yes.
I think that it was a very smart move, and there's an increasing convergence in the Enterprise 2.0 space generally. And one thing that I've noticed in the space is now all of the 800-ton gorillas are entering with their own platform.
Yeah.
And so it was the right thing for them to do. So far, all I've seen is demo videos, and it's a lovely demo. They all are.
It just seems like what Crowdcast is doing would be so complementary to Force.com.
Could you send Mark a note about that?
Yeah, I think we might be able to influence that a little bit.
Well, it also depends on what Benioff's got going is he's expecting people to voluntarily bubble up this information,
right,
which she has made part of people's ego to bubble it up by letting them bet. Right?
Exactly.
So I think it's more about like hacking the humans than it is the system.
Please don't say that again.
No, but it's true. But it's true. It's like getting the psychology.
That's zombie talk.
It's much more around sort of activity streams than about leveraging the stream and the social group into an action, which is really more where we're putting our stake in the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
So Mark Benioff, you need to talk to Crowdcast. Any final thoughts from you, Dave?
Yeah, I think that going forward, this is going to be, one of the single most best sources of marketing information that we can get at. And I think we're just at the beginnings of trying to understand the value of that. So this is absolutely the right move. And ultimately, you're going to be seeing lots of people jump on this bandwagon, which is within the cloud space. And I can't wait to see it because it's going to give us information that we haven't had access to in my career.
Yeah.
So kudos to you guys and best of luck.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Leslie. Are there any final thoughts that you have for us?
No, I appreciate the time, and it's a great conversation.
Excellent. Well, if you guys want to follow Leslie on Twitter, it's at Leslie Fine. And make sure we put that in the chat room. And thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And keep us posted on what's going on at Crowdcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. All right, I believe it's time for a musical interlude, don't you?
Yeah, boys and girls, it's that time once again. And my guitar isn't out of tune this time. It's awesome.
That's amazing.
I didn't bump it on the way up. Your cloud hosting provider letting you down. Take a look at managed private cloud solutions from Verticore. A managed private cloud solution can easily replace your current IT infrastructure and eliminate IT pains. Avoid the cost and hassle of buying and maintaining IT equipment and software. Deliver 100% uptime to end users. Configure and deploy resources in just minutes. Everyone sing along now, ready? With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. With Verticore, your private cloud is hosted in an advanced and secure data center, which uses only best-in-class hardware and software and gives you access to scalable bandwidth. Verticore's team of experts monitor and maintain your private cloud 24/7 by 365. Once again, with Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore.
Jason, I was not looking for the lyrics at the top of the screen like Rock Band, just because you know I'm addicted to Rock Band. Anyway, that is from our chat room, by the way.
Fantastic.
So I believe we have an app of the week. We have one Mr. Taylor Mingos, the CEO of Shoeboxed, joining us. Are you there, Taylor?
Hello.
Oh, hold on just a moment. We're having some sound issues over here with you.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I think we can hear you now. You there?
Yeah, Amanda, can you hear me?
Perfect. I can hear you. I feel like we're in a Verizon ad. So, Shoeboxed, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them, but what are the things you would typically put in a shoebox?
Photographs, perhaps.
Okay, Dave, what would you put in a
Receipts?
shoebox?
Shoes.
Shoe. Oh, come on, Mr. Obvious. I put things like receipts, business cards. Come on, work with me here, people.
The money I stole from the bank? Oh, wait.
So anyway, Shoeboxed falls in that whole productivity application bucket of all of us have these receipts and whatnot that we just pile up and pile up and pile up, and you can send these off to Shoeboxed and they will take care of them for you. So whether it's your expense, for expenses, or also the business cards. Lon, our creative director,
yes,
has seen my ghastly bags business cards
I've got
that I
some at
have.
home as well.
It's ridiculous. So, thank you for dealing with this for us, Taylor.
Now, how exactly does that work, though? So I've got a big pile on my desk at home of receipts. I've been on a business trip. What happens next?
How does it work?
I could only kind of hear that. Can you say that one more time?
So how does the process actually work? How do we get our receipts loaded and organized?
Right, well, Shoebox makes it really easy. What we do is we give you prepaid envelopes, a lot like Netflix.
Okay.
And you get them and you just stuff them full. They're Tyvek. They hold a lot of stuff. You just stuff them with all your paper clutter, basically. Receipts, business cards, legal documents you might want archived in the cloud. Drop them in the mail and we digitize them. We, OCR, extract a lot of the pertinent data. We do it very accurately, and we put them in the cloud for you. We also have, some mobile apps, an iPhone app, and also email addresses you can send images in and documents.
What about SMS? Can I just text you different expenses on the fly or anything like that?
We don't do that right now. Right now we're really specializing in kind of just storing like the paper receipts. And the MMS, the quality's not that great for our OCR.
Right.
So we're encouraging people to use, the higher resolution camera phone cameras and actually send them via email. But, we make it super easy to generate an expense report, and we're really excited about being in the cloud. Being a cloud app, we have a lot of integrations with other great apps like FreshBooks, Outright, Evernote, email marketing software, Salesforce, QuickBooks, Quicken. It's really great. So really what we're trying to help, small businesses and individuals do is get all their paper clutter into the cloud and useful and integratable into all those different great apps that are out there.
Okay. That is really awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I mean, this is a great application because you're talking about, normally when I walk people through productivity apps like this, especially my parents, and I go, you have to scan stuff and stick it in there. They don't get it. But they do get putting stuff in an envelope and sending it off and having it done automatically for them as a service. So this is a great idea.
Yeah, see, I thought he was going to say, oh, well, you have to type them all in. I was like, oh, dude, no.
Yeah.
That's kind of where my brain was going. I mean, it pretty much sounds like you do. I mean, if you could do a retinal scan of a ghost image of something I'd lost, that's probably the only thing you don't do, is what it sounds like, which is fantastic.
Well, actually, one thing I wanted to raise, because we have a lot of like-minded, similar companies on this show that could partner together, perhaps. We actually spoke with Parand Dergar from Expenser a while ago. Do you remember that?
I remember that one.
And they do a lot of this real-time uploading of expenses and whatnot, so they might be a good company to partner with.
And actually we've had talks with them. We are, Shoeboxed in general. One of the things we're really excited about with, web applications, kind of software as a service, the cloud, is the ability to integrate with other apps. I mean, we believe strongly that integrations, are great for everybody. We're not kind of a walled garden company with regards to data. Shoeboxed, actually, one kind of interesting thing is we were one of the founding members of a group called the Small Business Web, which now has a lot of members in it, including, I believe, officially Google Apps and Rackspace Cloud. And, it's us, FreshBooks, Outright, CRM called Batchbook, and some other people. And we're really trying to promote as many integrations as possible. I think Expenser might have joined the group as well. I'm not sure, but there's about 170 companies in it now. And we're really pushing just to integrate. A lot of our products are extremely complementary and can really help, the same users.
Okay. Now you've had a lot of news lately. You guys just a little over a month ago, you launched the service in Australia and opened an office in Sydney, and you've also got version 2.0 of the iPhone app. What's specifically in version 2.0 versus 1.0?
2.0 is a lot faster. It's a lot better app. Our 1.0 app was really well received. For a while, it was a staff pick in the App Store. New York Times named it App of the Week about a year ago. And really, we just put in a lot of time just re-architecting it, making it faster. We're working on releasing an Android app and an app specifically for our business card feature, which will be really great. We're waiting to get a couple other things finalized with some of the exciting things we have in development, basically, for business cards, for digitizing them into contacts. But the iPhone app 2.0, it's a great, either standalone product for generating expense reports on the go, or works well, helping you have another way to put your stuff in Shoeboxed. And, with the Australia point, Australia's the first company we've launched a foreign operations center in, but we plan to launch many more in the coming years.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, what I look at with this is consumer behavior is not going to change when it comes to things you don't like to do.
Yeah.
So how can we just make productivity, how can we enhance productivity in a way that's going to be pretty painless? Is that kind of your approach?
Exactly, and we service both consumers and small businesses. And, what's the great thing now with the cloud is just, a suite of software products that 5-10 years ago might have cost you $20,000 to get these enterprise equivalents. Now it's so cheap. They're $10, $20 products max. They all integrate with each other, and it's just such a different world, and it's just really exciting to be a part of that. And to help a lot of other apps that are really cool online apps, help them kind of bridge the gap from the old world of paper into the new world of doing everything online fully digitally. Because unfortunately out there's still a lot of paper in terms of bills, invoices, receipts, business cards, and stuff like that. So it's just really exciting to be talking to all these great companies and working with them. And we've gotten strong adoption. We're growing very quickly, and it's really exciting.
We have a question in the chat room from Jay Praz saying, where's the IP? Is the OCR algorithms and such the IP or what?
Yeah, I mean, that's mainly what we focus on. We run everything, a lot like Evernote does through a lot of different OCR products. One of the things we do a really good job at that's different from other companies is most other companies that digitize, for example, receipts and business cards, make you do a lot of the data entry yourself and correction. Unfortunately, we are all geeks here. We love technology, but there's no way OCR is ever going to get things 100% accurate.
Gotcha.
So one of the things we've really perfected with, that's really important for lots of our customers, is actually being able to human verify things that the OCR does not get right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you send in your business cards to us, if it's a funky business card, which lots of them are these days, if it's a receipt that's faded or not 100% legible, lots of those fields will be human verified, and it's actually people here in the States. And we've developed technology to do that about a quarter the cost of India, and also keep that in-house. Wow. And it's a lot cheaper than using Mechanical Turk or lots of the other things out there. We process millions and millions of receipts every quarter. So, our system knows a lot about, what receipts should look like, what different values are, and that allows us to really efficiently, review things that are certainly going to be wrong. A $1,000 receipt from Starbucks probably doesn't make sense. Things like that. We developed a lot of work there in IP.
I know people that love Starbucks. I'm telling you, Taylor. I'm just saying. Not me specifically. I see you, Dave, but I'm a Dunkies girl, so.
That's true. And that's what we do is, Evernote and different services like that do the OCR, and what we really do on receipts and business cards is also extract that metadata. Yeah. For receipts, it's, the store name, which is the vendor, the payment type.
Yeah.
If it was a credit card, what the last four digits were, things like that. We auto-categorize it. So we really help you kind of get the data out there and importable into all these other apps.
Okay. Do we want to look at this really quickly? I know that we've got a GoToMeeting. Or do you have that on your screen, Taylor?
Yeah, I do. I'm sharing my screen right now, actually.
Okay. I'm on here, and it just says the... Okay, here we are. We're jumping in. Let me get this going, and we'll take a peek.
Hopefully I haven't...
If I need to play guitar again, just let me know.
Well, we'll have you play guitar again if we need to, yes.
I'll do another little interlude if you really need me to.
Here we go. I think we're starting to get in here now.
I learned a new music.
Yeah, so can you see the screen?
I can see the control panel. Don't you love... Here we go. Let me switch over. Okay, folks. And I'll zoom in here for you. Okay, can everybody see that all right? Okay, go for it. Give us a high-level overview of some of these features then.
Yeah, so basically, I'll apologize. My internet connection here in the office is embarrassingly slow today. But just really quick, this is kind of what you see when you log into Shoeboxed. You see your 5 most recent receipts. You see the status on your envelope if you're sending receipts, if you're using the mail-in feature to send stuff back and forth, the Netflix-like feature I told you about earlier where you just stuff a big blue prepaid envelope and it shows up online. I can show you kind of what a receipt looks like.
Okay.
Let's choose this one from Mad Hatter's, which is a great cafe here in Durham, North Carolina. And you can see that you have
great quality.
Yeah, we use scanners. The other thing you've got to keep in mind is the scanner Shoeboxed uses in the software kind of processing and hardware reprocessing of the receipts is a lot more expensive than what anybody would buy on their own.
Yeah.
So we're able to really kind of, even faded receipts, we can make pop out pretty well. And if you see here, we've extracted the vendor, we have the date extracted here, the total amount. Depending on certain settings, we extract some of the other data as well.
Okay.
You see that it's a credit card purchase.
You can even add notes. I like that feature.
Oh yeah, and with our mobile app, you can add notes on the go when you send stuff in.
Okay.
I don't know if I noticed this. It's probably a pretty important question you might be asking. But the IRS does accept scanned receipts.
That was my biggest question because I still have so many paper documents for things, and I don't know what I have to keep or what I can have digitally or what I can just throw away.
Right. The IRS actually is very, very advanced. What they'll do if it
really the IRS is advanced. Well, I guess they're
in that regard, yeah. They Shoebox was actually started in Europe, which is kind of a long story in and of itself. We were started in Berlin, Germany, is where I founded the company. But it was a play for the U.S. market. Okay. The IRS here in the U.S. allowed scanned receipts a lot before anybody else did. Over the last year, a lot of foreign IRS equivalents have started, allowing scanned receipts, which is one reason we recently expanded to Australia.
Yeah.
We saw a big demand there, and there it's really required for tax purposes to keep them. But that's a trend that's going. More and more people are becoming accepting of these.
Right.
And obviously for taxes, especially if you're a business, you want to keep track of your receipts because your credit card statement doesn't have item level information, and it might not be easy to kind of justify the purchase if you're deducting a lot of things.
Okay.
So.
Can you show us briefly on here how to load this information into a FreshBooks sort of application?
Sure. Let me also show you the business card feature really quick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because that's really cool. So if you send in business cards, let's see here.
Yeah, I've got a pile of business cards at home.
This is a business card we process. We scan the front and the back in color and extract the most pertinent data, the phone, mobile, fax, email address.
Oh, so you actually can still see the card itself, too. That's a huge thing for me, because a lot of times when I'm getting these cards, I'll associate the image of the card itself with the person that I met. Yeah. So that's really helpful.
Yeah, no, it's great. If you've written any notes on the cards, they're there. And what's really cool with Shoeboxed is you can download all the data to a CSV file, which goes pretty much in any app you want. But we also have, we just released, it's going to be in the App Exchange in a day or two, along with a third party, a Salesforce connector.
Saw that.
We also have an export. We're in Constant Contacts marketplace for email marketing. So
that's excellent.
If you go to lots of trade shows, or if you have a restaurant and you maybe have a fishbowl out front and collect business cards to do coupons or raffles to join an emailing list, you can.
And we're just sending them off to you as soon as the show's over.
Yep.
Exactly. So, for example, here in the drop-down menu, you have a export to Constant Contact option.
I like that.
With your cards, which is really great. And then just to show you kind of some of the other exports. So here's some of the exports that you do, the kind of push exports from Shoebox. We have Quicken, Excel, CSV. We have a PDF expense report.
Oh, nice.
QuickBooks, MyOb, which is a popular software package in Australia that nobody uses here. And we also have a FreshBooks export, which you need to have your API key for to be able to use. But it's very easy. And then, we have an API, so there's a lot of applications out there that pull in data from Shoeboxed.
Oh, interesting.
You wouldn't see them on this page. But for example, Outright.com, which was backed by and founded by a lot of the same people behind Mint, they're kind of trying to make the Mint for small businesses and doing a great job, and freelancers. And for example, in their account where you keep all your credit card statements and your bank statements, they'll actually pull in your Shoeboxed receipts so you can sync them right up with everything in there. It's a really cool experience.
Nice. And I like also that you're categorizing things for people, because if a company doesn't provide some sort of structure like that, I find that I'll end up not using it. So it's nice that you provide some level of categories here.
Right, exactly. And they're customizable. They're pretty common. We've worked with a lot of accountants and bookkeepers on designing the system and setting it up. So a lot of people really like what you can do with it. We actually, if you use a bookkeeper or an accountant, there's a possibility you might be using Shoebox without knowing it if you give them your receipts and documents, because we do work with a lot of them.
Now, what's your pricing structure?
Our cheapest plan that includes the ability to actually physically mail things in starts at $9 a month, or $9.99 actually. We're releasing a digital-only plan that starts at $5, where you don't
see benefits of the cloud.
Yeah. But our most popular plan though for small business owners who the majority of which consider this a business expense and something to help keep everything for the next 7 years for tax reasons and want to send everything in. The most popular plan for them is our $20 a month plan, and that includes unlimited envelopes per month, and you just get these big blue envelopes. We send 2 when you start your account out, and then every time we process your receipts and documents, we send one back, and they'll send in a lot of things, legal documents, receipts, business cards.
I was going to ask what the other documents would be. I guess legal documents makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that part of the site we say is in beta, as you can see here, but we're rapidly increasing kind of our support for scanning check stubs, scanning other things you might need to keep on record.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Well, Dave, any thoughts from you now that we've actually seen the product?
The only thought I have is I'm going to become a customer quickly. This looks great.
Great.
You're going to have many envelopes coming from the This Week In team, I suspect.
Save me from hours of scanning.
We do tend to look for apps of the week that we could potentially use here at the network. So,
well, great. Let us know.
Any final thoughts that you want to add that we haven't covered here?
No, thanks a lot for having me on the show, and keep up the good work. This is a great program.
Great, we really appreciate it. Well, make sure you spread the word at TWI Network on Twitter. Hashtag TWICC for those of you who haven't used it yet. And if we want to follow you guys on Twitter, what account would we be using, Taylor?
At Shoeboxed.
At Shoeboxed. Okay. All right, well, thank you again for joining us. That pretty much wraps things up, except we have one final musical interlude. No, not musical interlude.
A lightsaber interlude. No, you got it wrong, Shield Maiden. Now you die.
No, I die.
Storm on Demand. Storm on Demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough powerful enough to replace dedicated servers. A proprietary cloud platform that was designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. And they have lightsabers. No, not really. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Also, the Force. The Force is strong with them. Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and much, much more. I love that part. Storm On Demand can be found at stormondemand.com. Also, it's not a lightsaber duel until someone loses their hand. stormondemand.com.
Stay away from my little man.
Him too.
Sorry?
Yes, these are the things that you have to put up with on this show, Taylor.
Yeah. You'll see. You'll see.
So thank you again to our wonderful guest, Leslie Fine of Crowdcast, and of course, Taylor Mingos of Shoeboxed. Make sure you follow them at Leslie Fine on Twitter and at Shoeboxed. And thank you to our wonderful co-host over here, Dave Linthicum. We will be snagging you in the studio here at some point, I'm sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
Look forward to that.
He puts up with a lot from us. So happy to have Dave joining us. And that's at David Linthicum on Twitter.
Yep.
And Mark Jeffrey and myself. And our sponsors at Verticore, at Storm On Demand, at NetDNA CDN, all on Twitter.
Yep.
Please, please, please thank them. They make this show possible. They make this network possible. And they make web TV possible.
Yes.
So, if you have ideas for the show, send them to pitch@thisweekend.com or to myself, Amanda@thisweekend.com. Or apparently you can call our sales guy, Mo.
Well, he doesn't like that.
Don't call Mo. Just send pitches to pitch@thisweekend or Amanda@thisweekend. That will be fine. I will get back in touch with you.
Mo gets in my ear about that, so
I know.
Please don't call him.
So yeah. But until next time, thank you for watching, and be sure to join us again next week, same cloud time, same cloud channel. I'm Amanda Coulong with This Week in Cloud Computing.